Welcome, and thank you for joining Between Sessions with Justin and Challie.
Just a quick disclaimer before we start. This podcast is for educational and conversational purposes only. It's not intended to replace therapy, counseling, or professional mental health care. We are sharing lived experiences and reflections, not prescriptions, and we encourage our listeners to seek professional guidance when needed.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining. Today, we are going to build off of what we covered last week of the Coping Skills Toolbox. Today, we're going to go into a little bit more in depth of what we should be including in our toolbox in terms of general categories of things. And then this is where I'd love to hear from anybody who is watching of what we include in our Coping Skills Toolbox or some things that we might have in each category and maybe not even realize it's actually part of a Coping Skills Toolbox that we may not even have known that we had. So, starting out, but in no particular order, things that are going to boost our mood or make us feel happy. Also going to be things that help identify and express our emotions, along with things that are going to help us problem solve. Acts of kindness are something that I like to include in this as well, along with hobbies and stress relievers, grounding techniques, or things that just make us feel grounded, and then asking for help. Sometimes these things can be called different categories in this, so whatever works for us, but as long as we're getting like a general idea of the things that we can be including in our coping skills toolbox. That's the important part. So, first starting out, I'm going to start with the mood boosters or things that make us feel happy. This is finding things that we enjoy or that we find funny. This could be watching funny YouTube videos. My go-to is watching dog videos. My dog doesn't love it, but they're something that make me feel pretty happy. Along with if we have a pet, being able to spend some time with that pet can also help us feel a little bit more happy and positive. This could also be the comfort of watching our favorite movie or show, even if we've watched it 100 times and we can recite it. That's going to help us feel that comfort and make us feel happy. This can also be positive affirmations. I know sometimes we cringe at the thought of positive affirmations, but they are truly so helpful. And this is something that it can be as simple as having one for a week and being able to see how it fits our life. We can look them up. We can find ones that are unique to us. We can write it on our mirror. We could journal with these positive affirmations. They even have apps that can send us positive affirmations for each day. So a lot of variety of ways that we can integrate those positive affirmations. And I think we'd really be surprised how much they can be helpful. If nothing else, it helps us change our negative self-talk to being something a little bit more positive. And the point of us doing the things that make us feel good is to find that joy, to find those different things that, whether it be the happy times or help us celebrate the happy times, but being able to find the joy. It does a world of difference for our mood, and it can be really good in those either stressful or triggering times. This is a really good one to pull out. And even if we are feeling pretty sad, this is something that can help us change that mood even just a little bit, even if it's temporarily. So this may not be the fix all to it, but it can give us a little bit of a break if we're feeling those really, really intense emotions. It'll give us a break to take that step away. And sometimes our brain just needs that reminder that happiness is there and we can find joy, because our brain is really good at convincing us that when we're feeling negative, that's the only way that we're ever going to feel. So it lets us get a little bit of a break here. Being able to identify our emotions and our feelings and finding ways to feel them and to express them is going to be the next category that is so important, because we can gain power by being able to identify what the emotion is and how it is impacting us. The more that we're able to put a word to it, the more we might be able to see that come up, and then we can identify how it impacts us. This can be through so many different ways. This can be internal and it can be external. So it might look like crying just to get that emotion out, and that's okay to cry. It's okay to feel that way. And it can be so healthy and therapeutic to get that out and to get those tears out. We can also express it through art that can be in whatever form that is. Maybe it's singing, maybe it's drawing or painting something just to express those feelings. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to look good. It just can be the way that we're feeling without expectations. One of my personal favorites is going to be journaling and being able to express those emotions or feelings in words, or sometimes just scribbling or doing that brain dump just to get it out. Because I know for me, I can get really overwhelmed with all of the thoughts that are swirling up there, and sometimes it's just helpful to get them out so we can even see the way that we're feeling, and then we can start to challenge that. Because we might find by writing it out that there's less of a connection to some of those thoughts and those feelings than what we are having it be in our head. So it can be so helpful just to get that little bit of clarity when we are experiencing this. Something else that goes along with identifying our feelings and emotions, but can also sometimes be a different category, is identifying and treating those basic needs. So a acronym that I have used so many times is HALT, and that is hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So being able to see and tune in to what we're feeling, hungry and really just need a snack. Have we not drank any water for the day? Have we not gotten the best night's sleep, and that might be impacting the way that we are experiencing our emotions or the way that we're making decisions. Lonely, that can be why we might get defensive, or we might be feeling some more of the extreme emotions because we are just lacking and we need to connect with someone. Those are all things that can really factor into this, and those might consist of some of those basic needs. Those can be really, really big triggers for our emotional state. So being able to be in tune with those and sometimes doing that check-in, that's something we'll cover kind of in the grounding piece, but having a check-in with ourselves can be so important, and being truthful within that. One of my favorite categories, and this is just because it's the way that my brain works, is the problem solving. So identifying what that problem is, being able to see how it's impacting us, and being truthful about that with ourselves. And it can be uncomfortable. And so this is where sometimes we do need to write it down. Maybe we need to take some time and think about it ourselves before we're sharing it with anybody else, or before we can really dive further into finding a resolution. Is just identifying what that problem is and being able to take that first step to then be able to move forward with the other ones. If we skip what the problem is, we're going to keep on trying to find a solution, and it might not really be fitting for what we're going through. So identifying it clearly of what it is we're experiencing is going to really help us move through the process of being able to problem solve. Then it can be brainstorming, being able to figure out what are some realistic options and maybe what are some not so realistic options, but giving ourselves some options. Sometimes it can be funny to think about different ways that we'd love to handle a situation, and we can bring a little bit of humor into this. I know for so many people, including myself, humor tends to be such a positive coping skill. Sometimes it can be unhealthy for sure, but being able to add a little bit of humor into this can be really helpful to lighten the mood and be able to lighten the way that we're feeling. Then moving to that next step of the problem solving is going to be challenging whatever that problem is, and maybe the way that we have been going about it before, and being able to take that honest look yet again of what we're doing well in it and then where we can improve on it. This is where we're going to pull in some of our strengths and our skills. And it can even be really helpful to write down what our skills are and what our strengths are so that we can identify how we can utilize them. It's so common in a stressful situation or a time that we're feeling down, we just completely forget what our strengths are and what skills we already have. So it can be a really nice reminder to write them down either each time or keep a list of what we know our strengths are and what we do well, to be able to employ that when we're feeling stressed, we're feeling overwhelmed, and all of that kind of goes out the window. The next one being acts of kindness. Being able to do something kind for someone else. It doesn't have to be this huge grand gesture, but it can be just holding the door open or saying hi, or even just giving a smile to someone. It helps us feel better. Even when we're having the most miserable day, we don't know what someone else is going through. And maybe just having a smile and sharing that smile with someone else might make their day. And it can also help improve our mood. We can also make this a larger habit and do some sort of volunteering or help out. Those are other ways to integrate it more into our life in a structured way. But really, just being able to start somewhere, and if it's holding the door open, being kind, giving a compliment, sharing a smile with someone, these are all ways that are free, and it can really impact the way that we're feeling because, well, we're giving something back to the world and the people around us, and it can be so simple. That's where many of these things that we're talking about in this are very simple. Many of them don't really cost anything, but they can have a really, really big impact in the way that we're viewing and going about life. The next one, grounding, and I know we kind of touched on this one a little bit more in the last episode, but grounding, things that make us feel present and remind us that we are here in the present moment and that we can be mindful. This can be using a fidget. Again, like I use different stones to be able to fidget with. They have a bunch of different fidget toys, such as the spinners, the cubes. It goes on and on of the different things that we can utilize as fidgets just to be able to help us feel more grounded in the moment. This can also look like meditation and being present in the moment, taking some times and a timeout for ourself within the day. It can be a great way to start our day. It can be a great way to end our day and collect our thoughts. It can also provide a nice little break throughout the day and a way to just check in with ourselves and kind of see where we're at. Along within this, I include body scans. So being able to do just a check of how we're doing and how we're feeling throughout the day and having an honest look. And that helps us be able to identify maybe why and what is factoring into the reason that we're making decisions that we are or the emotions that we're having. Another great way to utilize grounding is by breathing, and we can do so many different breathing activities. We can do belly breathing, we can do box breathing. That can be an entire episode on itself of the different breathing activities that we can do. But being able to utilize that, again, that is one that we can utilize and nobody even has to know. We can do it on the bus. We can do it while we're at work. We can do it in a meeting. So many different times we can utilize that, and it brings us back to the present moment. Some other things that kind of overlap in grounding, and then the next one of relaxation is going to be utilizing music, being able to have some form of movement or yoga that can be really grounding and bring us back to the current moment, along with reading. That can also be a really great grounding activity. Something that we can kind of use as some framework to be able to help us feel more grounded is identifying the different things that are in our current surrounding or within us. So identifying something that we can touch, something that we can hear, something that we can taste, something that we can see, and something that we can smell. There's a really specific technique that I tend to use, and that's the 5 things that you can see, the 4 things that you can hear, the 3 things that you can smell, the 2 things that you can touch, and the 1 thing that you can taste. That is a really good way to be able to bring us back down in the moment, at least for me. That is one that has been really, really effective. Moving to the next one of hobbies and relaxation. This can consist of so many different things, and this is where it's going to be so unique to us because my interests are going to be different than your interests, and this can be a really good way to have just a list of different things that we can fall back on. For some of us, it might be playing a game, it might be a board game or a video game, could be doing a puzzle, this could be writing, this could be poetry or journaling. One of the ones that I really like to utilize is planting a garden or having some plants because it's something that is outside of us that we can care for. And it's something that grows over time, teaches us patience, but it's something that can really bring us back and help us feel more relaxed. This is another one where we might utilize walking or music. These can be included in this one as well. Having something physical like exercise can be very healthy, and that also helps us just feel happier in the moment, and it releases some good chemicals within our brain. Crafting or painting can be really good. This is where I would love to hear some of the hobbies or relaxation that we have done because this is one that has so many different options within it. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Dancing is another one that I just thought of being in this, or singing also. The last one that I think is so important that we include in our toolbox is asking for help, knowing when we're feeling overwhelmed or things are a little bit too much for us to handle on our own. So reaching out to that support system, being able to work on developing that support system can also be a really great way to build our toolbox as well. Connection can be so important. We are creatures that thrive in community. So having some sense of connection can really help us in these tough moments of being stressed. It can give us a little bit of a break from the things that are going on. It is not a weakness by any means to reach out for help and to share what we're going through. This might also look like professional support. So being able to get involved with a therapist or a coach or whatever meets the needs or what we're looking for. This can be a really great way to get some external validation and also some external insight into what we're experiencing. This can be utilizing our friendships and going to a person that might have lived experience. This can also be a support group if it's a really specific thing that we're going through and maybe nobody else in our life has experienced that. Finding individuals that have had similar lived experiences to us can be so beneficial and helps us feel less alone. That in itself can help us work through so many challenges of just knowing we're not the only one that is experiencing something. Not to take any of the challenge away in that sense that it is a unique experience to us, but just to know that people have been able to be resilient and work through the challenges, or even just to go through it with someone can be so beneficial. So, thinking about our coping skills toolbox, this is something that can always grow. We can always change things out of it and we can kind of modify it for what our needs are, but having some sort of base of this coping skills toolbox can be so important and really can be beneficial for something to pull from in those moments that we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed and we really want to lean back on that more negative coping skill or that unhealthy habit. Being able to pull these out and to give us just some different options, it's going to help us feel empowered. It's going to help us feel more in control in that moment rather than just at a loss of control, which so many times we truly feel that when we're feeling overwhelmed or we're stressed. It can be because we are feeling a lack of control, even if it's just small things in that moment. We can feel out of control of this is going to give us some of that power back. And it may not completely fix the issue at that point in time, but it can help us gain some clarity on whatever it is that we're experiencing. It can also help us make better quality decisions and make informed choices to be able to work through something. It allows us the opportunity to respond rather than just to react. So, if this is something that we like, I'd love to hear from us to be able to go farther and deeper into some of these different categories. If anybody has any suggestions of what we could put in these categories, I would love to hear that. This is something that is so unique to us, and there is no way we can cover every little bit of it. So to get some input can help us at least cover more ground with this. Thank you guys for joining this week, and I look forward to hearing from you.